Every intelligent person knows that stimulation in excess through alcoholic drink and narcotics is a form of intemperance which destroy the vital over indulgence in sex expressions may become a habit as destructive and detrimental to create effort as narcotics or liquor. A sex mate a sex mad man is not essentially different than a madman. Both have lost control over their faculties of reason and willpower. Sexual overindulgence may not only destroy reason and willpower, but it may also lead to either temporary or permanent insanity. Many cases of hypochondria, imaginary illness, grow out of habit developed in ignorance of the true function of sex. From these brief reference to the subject, it may be readily seen that ignorance on the subject of sex transmutation forces stupendous penalties upon the ignorant on the one hand and withhold from them equally stupendous benefits on the other. Widespread ignorance on the subject of sex is due to the fact that the subject has been surrounded with mass mystery and beclouded by dark silence. The conspiracy of mystery and silence has had the same effect upon the minds of young people that the psychology of prohibition had. The result had been increased curiosity and desire to acquire more knowledge on this verboten subject, and to the shame of all lawmakers and most physicians by training best qualified to educate youth on the subject, information has not been easily available. Seldom does an individual enter upon highly creative effort in any field of endeavor before the age of 40. The average man reaches the period of his greatest capacity to create between 40 and 60. These statements are based upon analysis of thousands of men and women who have been carefully observed. They should be encouraging to those who failed to arrive before the age of 40 and to those who became frightened at the approach of old age. Around the 40 years mark, the year between 40 and 50 are, as a rule, the most fruitful. Man should approach this age not with fear and trembling, but with hope and eager anticipation. Anticipation. If you want evidence that most men do not begin to do their best work before the age of 40, study and records of the most successful men known to be American people, and you will find it Henry Ford had not hit his pace of achievement until he had passed the age of 40. Andrew Carnegie was well past 40 before he began to reap the reward of his effort. James H. Hills was still running a telegraph key at the age of 40. His stupendous achievement took place after that age. Biographies of American industrialists and financiers are filled with evidence that the period from 40 to 60 is the most productive age of man. Between the age of 30 and 40, man begins to learn, if he ever learns, the art of sex transmutation. This discovery is generally accidental, and more often than otherwise the man who make it is totally unconscious of his discovery. He may observe that his power of achievement have increased around the age of 35 to 40, but in most cases he is most familiar with the cause of this change. The nature begins to harmonize the emotions of love and sex in the individual between the age of 30 and 40, so that he may draw upon these great forces and apply them jointly as a stimuli to action. Sex alone is a mighty urge to action, but its forces are like a cyclone. They are often uncontrollable. When the emotion of love begins to mix itself with the emotion of sex, the result is calmness of purpose, poise, accuracy of judgment, and balance. What person who has attained to the age of 40 is so unfortunate as to unable to analyze these statements and to corroborate them by his own experience. When driven by his desire to please a woman based solely upon the emotions of sex, a man may be and usually is capable of great achievement, but his actions may be disorganized, distorted, and totally destructive. When driving by his desire to please a woman based upon the motive of sex alone, a man may steal, cheat, and even commit murder. But when the emotions of love is mixed with the emotion of sex, that same man will guide his action with more sanity, balance, and reason. Crim- crimin- Criminologists have discovered that the most hardened criminal can be reformed through the influence of a woman love. There is no record of a criminal having being reformed solely through the sex influence. These facts are well known, but their cause is not. Reformation comes, if at all, through the heart or the emotional side of man, not through his head or reasoning side. Reformation means a change of heart, it does not mean a change of head. A man may, because of reason, make certain changes in his personal conduct to avoid the consequences of undesirable effects, but genuine reformation comes only through a change of heart, through a desire to change. Love, romance, and sex are all emotions capable of driving men to heights of super achievement. Love is the emotions which serve as a safety wall, ensures balance, poise, and constructive efforts. When combined, these three emotions may lift one to an altitude of a genius. They are genie, however, who knows but little of the emotions of love. Most of them may be found engaged in some form of action which is destructive or at least not based upon justice or fairness towards other. If good taste would permit, a dozen genie could be named in the field of industry and finance who ride recklessly over the right of their fellow men. They seems totally lacking in conscience. The reader can easily supply his own list of such men. The emotions are states of mind. Nature has provided man with the chemistry of the mind which operates in a manner similar to the principles of chemistry of matter. It is well known fact that through the aid of chemistry of matter, a chemist may create a deadly poison by mixing certain elements, none of which are in themselves harmful in the right proportion. The emotions may likewise be combined so as to create a deadly poison. The emotion of sex and jealousy, when mixed, may turn a person into an insane beast. The presence of any one or more of the destructive emotions in the human mind through the chemistry of the mind set up poison which may destroy one's sense of justice and fairness. In extreme case, the presence of any combination of these emotions in the mind may destroy one's reason. The road to genius consists of the development, control, and use of sex, love, and romance. Briefly, the process may be stated as follow. Encourage the presence of these emotions as the dominating thoughts in one's mind and discourage the presence of all the destructive emotions. The mind is a creature of habit. It thrives upon the dominating thoughts feed it. Through the faculty of willpower, one may discourage the presence of any emotion and encourage the presence of any other. Control of the mind through the power of will is not difficult. Control comes from persistence and habit. The secret of control lies in understanding the process of transmutation when any negative emotions present itself in one's mind, it can be transmuted into positive or constructive emotion by the simple procedure of changing one's thought. There is no other road to genius than through voluntarily self effort. A man may attain to great heights of financial or voluntarily self effort. A man may attain to great heights of financial or business achievement solely by the driving force of sex energy, but history is filled with the evidence that he may and usually does carry with him certain traits of characteristics which rob him of the ability to either hold or enjoy his fortune. This is worthy of analysis, thoughts, and meditation, for it states a truth the knowledge of which may be helpful to women as well as men. Ignorance of this has cost thousands of people their privilege of happiness even though they possess riches. The emotion of love and sex leave their unmistakable mark upon the features. Moreover, these signs are so visible that all who wish may read them. The man who is driving by the storm of passion based upon sex desires alone plainly advertises that fact to the entire world by the expression of eyes and the lines of his face. The emotions of love, when mixed with the emotion of sex, soften, modify, and beautify the facial expression. No character analysis is needed to tell you this if you observe it for yourself. The emotion of love bring out and develop the artistic and aesthetic nature of man. It leaves it impressed upon one's very soul even after the fire has been subdued by time and circumstance. Memories of love never pass, they linger, guide, and influence long after the source of stimulation has faded. There is nothing new in this. Every person who has been moved by genuine love knows that it leaves enduring traces upon the human heart. The effect of love endures because love is spiritual in nature. The man who cannot be stimulated to great heights of achievement by love is hopeless. He is dead, though he may seem to live. Even the memories of love are sufficient to lift one to a higher plane of creative effort. The major force of love may spend itself and pass away like a fire which has burned itself out, but it leaves behind indelible mark as evidence that it passed that way. Its departure often prepares the human heart for a still greater love. Go back into your yesterdays at time and bathe your mind in the beautiful memories of past love. It will soften the influence of the present worries and annoyances. It will give you a source of escape from the unpleasant reality of life, and maybe, who knows, your mind will yield to you during this temporary retreat into the world of fantasy ideas or plans which may change the entire financial or spiritual status of your life. If you believe yourself unfortunate because you have loved and lost, perish the thought one who has loved truly can never lose entirely. Love is whimsical and temperamental. Its nature is ephemeral and transitory. It comes when it pleases and goes away without warning. Accept and enjoy it while it remains, but spend no time worrying about its departure. Worry will never brings it back. Dismiss also the thought that love never comes but once. Love may come and go, times without number, but there are no two love experiences which affect one in just the same way. There may be, and there usually is, one love experience which leaves a deeper imprint on the heart than all the other, but all love experiences are beneficial, except to the person who becomes resentful and cynical when love make a departure. There should be no disappointment over love, and there would be none if people understood the difference between the emotions of love and sex. The major difference that love is spiritual while sex is a biological. No experience which touches the human heart with a spiritual force can possibly be harmful except through ignorance or jealousy. Love is without question. Love greater the experience it brings one's into communion with infinite intelligence when mixed with the emotions of romance and sex, and it may lead one far up the ladder of creative effort. The emotions of love, sex, romance are sides of the eternal triangle of achievement, building genius. Nature creates genie through no other force. Love is an emotion with many sides, shades, and color. The love which one feels for parents or children is quite different from that which one feels for one sweetheart. The one is mixed with the emotions of sex while the other is not. The love which one feels in true friendship is not the same as that felt for one's sweetheart parents or children, but it too is a form of love. Then there is the emotions of love for things inanimate, such as the love of nature, handiwork, but the most intense and burning of all these various kinds of love is that experience in the blending of emotions of love and sex. Marriages not blessed with the eternal affinity of love properly balanced and proportioned with sex cannot be happy ones, and seldom endure. Love alone will not bring happiness in marriage, nor will sex alone. When these two beautiful emotions are blended, marriage may bring about a state of mind closest to the spiritual that one may ever known on this earthly plane. When the emotion of romance is added to those of love and sex, and the obstruction between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence are removed, then a genius had been born. With a different story is this, that those usually associated with the emotion of sex, here is an interpretation of the emotions which lived it out of the commonplace and make of it potter clay in the hands of God, from which He fashioned all. This is beautiful and inspiring. It is an interpretation which would, when properly understood, bring harmony out of the chaos which exists in too many marriages, and this harmony is often expressed in the form of nagging, may usually betrays to lack of knowledge on the subject of sex, where love, romance, and proper understanding of the emotions and function of sex abide. There is no disharmony between married people. Fortunate is the husband whose wife understands the true relationship between the emotions of love, sex, and romance. When motivated by this holy triumvirate, no form of labor is burdensome because even the most lowly form of effort takes on the nature of labor of love. It is very old saying that a man wife may either make him or break him. But the reason is not always understood. The making and breaking is the result of the wife understanding or lack of understanding of the emotions of love, sex, and romance. Despite the fact that men are polygamous by the very nature of their biological inheritance, it is true that no woman has a great an influence on a man as his wife unless he is married to a woman totally unsuited to his nature. If a woman permits her husband to lose interest in her and become more interested in other women, it is usually because of her ignorance or indifference towards the subject of sex, love, and romance. This statement pres- presupposes, presupposes, of course, that genuine love once existed between a man and his wife. The facts are equally applicable to a man who permits his wife interest in him to die. Married people often bicker over a multitude of trivialities. If they are analyzed accurately, the real cause of the trouble will often be found to be indifference or ignorance of these subjects. Man's greatest motivating force is, is his desire to please women. The hunter who excelled during the prehistoric days before the day of civilization did so because of his desire to appear great in the eyes of women. Man's nature has not changed in this respect. The hunter of today brings home no skin of wild animal, but he indicates his desire for her favor by supplying fine clothes, motor cars, and wealth. Man has the same desire to please women that he had before the dawn of the civilization. The only thing that has changed is his method of pleasing. Women who accumulate large fortunes and attain to great heights of power and fame do so mainly to satisfy their desire to please women. Take women out of their lives and great wealth would be useless to most men. It is this inherent desire of men to please women which give women the power of make to power to make or break a man. The woman who understands man natures and tactfully caters to it need have no fear of competition from other women. Men may be giants with indom- indomitable willpower when dealing with other men, but they are easily managed by the woman of their choices. Most men will not admit that they are easily influenced by the woman they prefer because it is the nature of the male to want to the recognized as the stronger of the species. Moreover, the intelligent woman recognizes these mainly traits and may wisely makes no issue of it. Some men know that they are being influenced by the woman of their choice, their wives, sweethearts, mothers, or sisters, but they tactfully refrain from rebelling against the influence because they are intelligent enough to know that no man is happy or complete without the modifying influence of the right woman. The man who does not recognize this important truth deprive himself of the power which has done more to help men achieve success than all other forces combined.